separate a kid from its parents.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's podcast.
Today we're talking about immigration in the United States, one of the most discussed and sometimes misunderstood topic in our country.
First, let's define what an immigrant is. An immigrant is someone who was born in another country and now lives in the United States. Some immigrants are naturalized citizens, some have permanent residency, and others may not have legal authorization to live in the country. No matter their status, immigrants have played a major role in shaping the United States throughout history.
Immigration is not a new part of American history. During the age of mass migration from about 1880s to 1920s, millions of Europeans came to America searching for economic opportunities and a better life. Many arrived through Ellis Island, which became one of the most famous migration stations in the country.
However, immigration policies have changed over time. In 1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, which heavily restricted immigration from China and marked one of the first major federal laws limiting immigration based on nationality. Later, in 1924, national origin quotas were established to limit the number of immigrants allowed from certain countries. A major turning point came with the Immigration and National Act of 1965. This law ended the national origins quota system and instead focused on family reunification and skilled workers. As a result, immigration became much more diverse, leading to multicultural society we see in the United States today.
According to the Library of Congress, there are more than 50 million immigrants living in the United States today, making up about 14.8% of the population. While Mexico remains the largest country of origin for immigrants, in recent years there have been increased numbers of people arriving from South America and India. In fact, more than half of all immigrants in the United States have become naturalized U.S. citizens. Immigrants is not a new part of American history. During the age of mass migration, beyond history, immigrants have a significant impact on the economy. Research shows that all growth in the United States labor force between 2000 and 2023 came from immigrants and their U.S.-born children. Immigrants help fill jobs, start businesses, and contribute new skills and support industries that depend on workers. Immigrants also contribute large amounts of tax revenue. In 2022 alone, immigrants paid an estimated $383 billion in federal taxes. Just like other workers, employers withhold federal income taxes and payroll taxes from immigrants' employees. These taxes help fund public services such as schools, transportation, and healthcare programs.
Another important economic fact is that immigrants are generally net contributors to government budgets. Economists have found that immigrants increase economic activity, productivity, and overall growth. While immigration can slightly increase government spending in some areas, the long-term economy benefits often outweigh those costs. There is also a major backlog in the immigration system. More than 7 million people are currently waiting for decisions on lawful permanent residency and green cards applications. Experts estimate that reducing this backlog could add approximately $4 trillion to the U.S. economy over the next 10 years and could contribute up to $125 billion towards reducing the federal deficit. Now let's address one of the most common arguments against immigration. Many people worry that immigrants take jobs away from Americans and lower wages, especially for lower income workers. This concern is understandable. Harvard economist George Borja studied the Manal boat lift, a large migration of Cubans of Miami in 1980. His research suggested that the sudden increase in workers may have reduced wages for some Americans who did not have high school diplomas. However, it is important to consider that the scale of the event. The Manal boat lift increased Miami's population by about 7% in only 42 days. To put that into perspective, it would be like more than 22 million immigrants arriving in the United States within 6 weeks. That type of sudden population increase is extremely unlikely to happen nationwide. Some doubt Borja's finding, and Borja's response, even if the mayoral boat lift has such a large and negative effect on the wages of native-born high school dropouts in Miami, it had a large positive impact on the wages of natives with only high school education, to such a degree that the wages of lower-skilled Miamians actually increased. The rapid recovery of Hispanic wages in Miami also produced some doubt as mayoral's effect on native wages, as Hispanics were the most likely to suffer wage declines from competition with the new Cuban migration.
Additionally, other researchers have questioned Borja's conclusion. Some studies found that while certain groups may have experienced temporary wages pressure, many workers with high school diplomas actually saw wages increase. Hispanic workers in Miami, who were expected to face the most competition, also experienced a relatively rapid recovery in wages. But it had been proven that immigrants often pay billions in taxes without having full access to federal or state welfare benefits. Based on the Institution on Taxes and Economic Policy, the website mission reviews and its point of view stands in a non-biased position, giving both points of views on this topic, and it's also a non-profit organization, and they conduct analysis on tax and economic proposals and provide data-driven recommendations to shape an equitable and substitutional tax system. More than a third of the tax dollars paid by undocumented immigrants go towards payrolls, taxes dedicated to funding programs that these workers are barred from accessing. They pay a considerable amount of taxes. Some estimates suggest undocumented immigrants paid nearly $96.7 billion in federal, state, and local taxes. In 2022, most of the amount, $59.4 billion, was paid to the federal government, while the remaining $37.3 billion was paid to the state and local governments. When we look at the broader picture, most economists agree that immigrants have only a small effect on overall wages and employment for native-born workers. In many cases, immigrants and native workers fill different roles in the labor market, allowing businesses to grow and create more opportunities.
Another common concern is that immigrants increase government debt and budget deficiency. Research from the National Academics of Science suggests that factors such as age and education play a major role in determining whether an immigrant contributes more in taxes than they receive in government benefits. Younger immigrants and those with higher levels of education are especially likely to be contributors to over their lifetimes. Furthermore, immigrants contribute billions of dollars in taxes and help support economic growth. While there may be some short-term cost associations with providing services, economists generally find that immigration strengthens the economy over time, increasing positively business growth, and tax contributions help offset those costs and can even reduce debt relative to the size of the economy. When discussing immigration, it's important to remember that behind every statistic is a person. Many immigrants come to the United States seeking safety, opportunities, and education, or the chance to build a better future for their families. Their stories reflect values that have been part of the American experience for generations: hard work, determination, and hope.
Many pro-immigrants worry that immigrants increase the budget deficiency in the government debt. The Cato Library website talks about how immigrants increase the budget deficiency in government debt, and how a new model published by National Academics of Science in their massive literature survey of the economics of immigrants finds that age is one of the most important factors in estimating whether a new immigrant will be a net fiscal of drain or contributor of government coffers, followed by education in their best model results in table 8 through 14. Government coffers if they arrive before age 25, while most educated immigrants have a negative effect if they arrive after age 64. but the impact is small. They also talk about how immigrants have given the entitlement proportions of a few more years of operations before bankruptcy. Although the tax incidence from immigrants is what matters for the fiscal consequences, between 50% and 75% of illegal immigrants comply with federal taxes law.
Although many think this, the tax center policy has stated and proven that actually immigrants are net contributors to the government budget and reduce the national deficit. And actually, in the short run, high levels of immigration boost total demand and productivity in the economy, which puts upward pressure on interest rates, while federal net interest payments on the debt would constantly increase. CBO estimates the effect is small and offset by the longer-term economy boost provided by immigrants, which has downward impact on the debt to GDP ratio and interest rates. Also, the system for proceeding applications for lawful permanent residency status and green cards is significantly backlogged, with more than 7 million people waiting at justification. Reducing the backlog could boost economy efficiency by addressing the estimated 4 trillion to gross domestic products over 10 years, contributing as much as 125 billion over the decade towards deficit reduction. This shows how immigrants contribute significantly federal tax revenues in 2022. For example, immigrants paid an estimated 383 billion in federal taxes. Businesses must withhold federal income and payroll taxes for immigrant workers in similar manners to many employees. In conclusion, immigration has been a defining part of Americans' history and continues to shape the country today. Immigrants contribute to the workforce, pay taxes, support economic growth, and help strengthen communities.
While concerns about jobs and government spending are valid, a discussion about what's best would help clear things up. Researchers suggest that immigration overall impacts on the economy is positive. They also talk about how immigrants have given the entitlement portion a few more years of operations before bankruptcy.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast.
We hope this discussion has proven a better understanding of immigration and its history and its role in the United States.
See you next time.